Hey, it's Aaron the Metal Theologian. And, yeah, just noise, man. I should have started this before I fucking turned on the camera, but now it's too late, and it's been 14 seconds, so I can't, like, go back, right? That is a little bit rough. Yeah, I'll put it to the far speaker, so maybe it's not so annoying, but I've got to have something in the background. This is sort of a request, actually. Believe it or not, because someone was commenting. I gotta change this case out. Someone was commenting about Kevin Drum, and there's a different one that I thought I had, but I don't seem to. So the only one I appear to have is this one with Aaron Dillaway. Just like everything else I fucking play on here, right? This is I Drink Your Skin. I thought it was kind of a stupid title, even though their heart's in the right place, you know. But who knows how old they were when they did this, right? But yeah, I assume it's from I Drink Your Blood and I Eat Your Skin. And I Drink Your Blood is a fantastic movie. I mean, fucking all-time classic, lest there be any question, right? So, yeah, I'm sort of in a weird place with the records, because, you know, I was listening to a bunch of sort of, like, miscellaneous shit. Like, I mean, I think I talked about this Daughters record and shit. I was listening to a lot of, like, these Swans records. This is kind of one of the more recent ones that came. This one and Holy Money and, like, that first one. And, yeah, it's been an acquired taste for me, the Swans, but I've really come around, you know. It's interesting stuff, man. It's just they're dirgy in a way that I don't think anyone else is quite dirgy, you know. But anyway, I went up for a Grown Man Record Night, since that cat is out of the bag, obviously, and that was a lot of fucking fun. But, you know, getting in the spirit, you know, sort of the traditional Grown Man Record Night fare is like, you know, the jazz funk stuff, right? You know, especially like the funky stuff, but like on the jazzy side of that, you know what I mean? It's like, I tend to think of something like Les McCann as being more classic Grown Man Record Night than something like Parliament, you know? Not that Parliament wouldn't get the shit played out of it up there, but, you know, sort of that jazz vibe as opposed to sort of the more soul or disco-y one even. So yeah, I got in that headspace. I'm like listening to a bunch of jazz stuff, but like there's a bunch of shit here that I haven't really digested yet, so I kind of don't know what the hell to say about it. It was a great trip as far as finding shit goes, though, and I hope you're all subscribed to Grown Men Record Night, because it's fucking it's its own thing. Okay, it's like, as far as like a vinyl community channel goes, it doesn't really operate on the same wavelength. You know what I mean? It's like an hour and a half show. And it sort of goes at its own pace, and there's like, you know, there's record talk. It's mostly record talk, obviously, but there's kind of a lot of bullshit too, you know what I mean? And if you watch the live show, you know, they're actually playing the records for all the time, it's kind of a different experience too. Now let me tell you, having been up there now, I kind of got another take on that whole experience too, you know? But, yeah, there's really sort of an organic quality to it that way, even though like the whole sort of deal with the set and the sort of talk show format of it kind of would seem to speak against that. There's an organic quality to the whole show that's just I don't know, man, just fun, you know what I mean? It's like, you know, it was the best compliment I ever got. I've probably said this before, but I think the best compliment I ever got on my own videos was when someone said was just like hanging out with me in my living room. And it was from someone who like I'd hung out with a lot. So he had spent a lot of time in my living room listening to records, and he was like, yeah, it's just like that. Yeah, I definitely got a lot more of that sort of sense going up there, you know. So yeah, what are we doing here? I don't know. I'll just pull some shit out, I guess. Here's what I've talked about before. Salah Ragab and the Cairo Jazz Band, Egyptian Jazz. I haven't talked about this in a while, though. In fact, this is Sun Ra related. It's been a while since I've talked about Sun Ra, so we might do something about that. But this is just a fucking fantastic record. It's a large group, and it's funny, you know, in a way, it sounds like the band that, like, if you were on vacation in Tunisia or Egypt or something like that, what the band at the hotel would sound like if the band at the hotel were just exactly what you wanted them to sound like. You know what I mean? Because it kind of has that vibe. There's sort of like a laid-back thing to it that's almost like, it's almost corny. Like it walks right up to the edge of corny and looks down over the edge. You know what I mean? But it doesn't go into corny. Instead, it's sunrise as far as like the songwriting approach and all that sort of thing. It has the sort of the traditional instruments. I kind of hate that term, but you know, like, you know, I mean, the dude's a drummer, right? So you have your classic, you know, jazz instruments, you know, your trumpets and your trombones and all that stuff, your bass trombone, look at that, and saxes. But you also have like a bamboo flute, and a Ramadan drum, whatever that is, you know. And it just gives it this color that's, again, it's right up at the edge of corny. And this thing could have been a total, like, piece of shit or an Exploital record, and it's just not. It just does everything right. And it's just great from start to finish. In fact, I'm going to have to play this again. Yeah, Ramadan in Space Time is one of my favorite titles. That's just too fucking funny. So, anyway, this has gotten little play. Pretty sure you can still find this too without too much headache. Here's another one that I've actually had for a while, but kind of just pulled out recently. You know, it's funny. I've talked before in videos about how, you know, sometimes when I get things, if I'm not ready to listen to it, I'm not going to be ready to listen to it for a while, I'll just file it away. So I'll go through my shit and I'll find a sealed record and be like, oh, it's like Christmas, you know what I mean? Well, it's funny because I hadn't been on the jazz for long enough that a few of those things have kind of piled up. And, like, I think there are probably even still more in here, but, like, there were some records over that I put aside that I'd gotten from Tom, FXP, and I'm going to be talking about those soon, but again, I'm not quite ready yet. But he sent me some really good shit. It was the sort of thing where, like, I was kind of at the end of a jazz phase, so I put it on and I was like, I can tell that this is great, but I'm not in the headspace, so I'm going to have to wait and come back. So some of this shit's just blowing my mind, though, right now. Like this one, I'm pretty sure came from him, this Marion Brown record. And, God damn it, where's that other one? Well, anyway, there are a couple. And first of all, go find the channel FXP and subscribe, because the dude hasn't made a video in a while, admittedly. But he deserves a lot more subscribers, because he knows his shit, and he just has a knack for finding really cool shit, like Eastern European shit and that. Oh, fuck, I know what the other one was I was going to show. Yeah, this thing, man, this is like, it's fucking... I don't really even know what this is. Michael Cosmic, Phil Musra, and the band leader Hüseyin Ertunç, if that's how you say it. I know the C with the hook under it in Turkish. But it's like some fucking Turkish guy. I don't know who the hell this is, right? And this is great, this fucking record. It's super free, and it's far out, and I haven't fully taken it in yet, you know what I mean? But it's like it's like what you would hope an early 70s Turkish jazz record would sound like. It's just fucking way the fuck out there. Honestly, as far as, you know, speaking about sort of traditional instrumentation, that sort of thing, so I was just talking about Salah Ragab, this doesn't really have anything like that going on. I mean, this is definitely more like sort of a classic jazz instrumentation, although these guys play so many instruments that, you know, there's a lot of variety as far as the color and that sort of thing goes. But, you know, sax, clarinet, flute, bass clarinet, piccolo, organ, percussion, band leader's a drummer, tenor sax, soprano sax, you know what I mean? It's like lots of horns on this thing, but just a variety of shit. Anyway, so that's some good shit. So it's like I'm kind of rediscovering all the shit. So here's another one that I just kind of found that I filed away sealed. And this is Annette Peacock and Paul Bley. Has a little bit more singing on it than I like, but usually when Annette Peacock is singing, she's kind of more like vocalizing and sort of, you know, sort of playing her voice like one of the instruments rather than sort of just singing. There's a little bit of that on here too. But what there's really a lot of on this record, even more than I expected, was electronics. And I don't know, man, I've been all over that lately. Like the jazz with a lot of electronics, I've been kind of geeking out over. So obviously Paul Bley's a piano player, and Annette Peacock plays a bunch of shit. plays, let's see, bass on one tune, electric piano, treated electric piano on another one, just piano, yeah. But she plays bass. I'm pretty sure she plays guitar too. She plays a bunch of shit. Anyway, so yeah. Anyway, this is a fantastic fucking record. All sorts of electronic shit. Oh yeah, and Han Benink is on drums on this thing. So yeah, fucking gem right there. That's been right under my nose for a while. So all right. So speaking of Sun Ra. I just cracked this one open earlier, but even though I hadn't played it yet, I was really excited when this came out because I listened to this several times online, and you know, it's not the sort of thing you're going to find an original of, but here's this reissue of God Is More Than Love Can Ever Be, which is actually a trio record. It's just the three of them, and I'll tell you, people talk about Sun Ra's piano playing occasionally, like, you know, calling him an underrated player or whatever else, and I think there's probably something to that. But it's not the piano playing as much as sort of the arrangements and the whole band, and especially the horns, that draw me to Sun Ra's records so much. But this one, man, well, let's put it this way. I listened to this record 2 or 3 times before, not this one, but online. I listened to this record a few times before I realized it was a trio record. And it's not because I couldn't hear the instruments, you know what I mean? It's just because there's a lushness to it and a fullness to it that just feels so far beyond what you usually get out of a trio record that it just transcends the sort of trio sound, you know what I mean? I can totally dig trios, you know what I mean? Like Bill Evans' records with, you know, Paul Motian and Scott LaFaro. It's classic stuff, you know what I mean? Cecil Taylor. But this record is just in a category by itself, man. 1979, apparently, just piano-based drums, and this thing somehow manages to be, I keep wanting to say all over the place, but by all over the place, I mean multifaceted and not just sort of like scattered. You know what I mean? It's a really rich and really complex record. As my highest recommendation. Would it make the next Sun Ra Top 10 video? I don't know, but if you see my Sun Ra section, it's hard to narrow it down to 10. Speaking of, I just cracked this one open too. This came out, I guess, I don't know if it's been a full year yet. But the standout cut on this one for me is I'm Gonna Unmask the Batman. Or, after coming back from Grown Man Record, I should say, I'm Gonna Unmask the Batman. It's, you know, again, I don't like jazz vocals, right? But Sun Ra pulls that shit off. The vocals are just so weird. They're like grunted, and sort of the way they're expressed is just kind of fucked up. And so it has this like groove and this sort of hookiness that just sort of draws you in, but a real, like, no shit, honest eccentricity too that I just can't help but love. Island in the Sun. First song on the record, I was totally expecting the song I know from Harry Belafonte. If it's the same song, man, it's fucking unrecognizable in this rendition. I don't think it is, but I'm willing to, if you tell me I'm wrong, I'll believe you. Great record though, man. This is a really good one. I gotta say, generally, there's, so the Sun Ra shit, the Sun Ra shit that's come out over the last 5 years or so, the shit that's been unearthed, has just generally been of such high quality. It's really kind of amazing. You know, it's amazing that there's so much shit just hiding out there in the archives anyway, right? But that you get a record as solid as of Abstract Dreams out of that is even more amazing to me, you know? Anyway, really good shit. Here's a Finnish one. Edward Vesala Trio. With Juhani Aaltonen, Edward Vesala, and Arild Andersen. I just think it's fun to pronounce the Finnish names. So, yeah, sax, drums, and bass. A lot of space on this record. And I like that. It's a really open sound. It's a very free, at least in the effect that it sort of has on the listener. It's not free like, you know, an Albert Eiler where it's in your face, like sort of screaming at you, you know, or like Pharoah Sanders, like that sort of shit. But it's very free as far as just sort of being like open and sort of lots of space in the music, you know what I mean? Lots of open space between where the instruments are sounding when they're playing together at specific times and that, you know. It's an unusual record that way, and it's even more unusual for 1970 for a Finnish record, because a lot of, when I reach for the Finnish shit, I'm generally expecting to hear something that's more like fusion, and I wouldn't call this a fusion record at all. And maybe I'll listen to it later and go, oh my god, what was I thinking? The second half of side 2 is 100% fusion, but that's not the impression that it left on me, you know. Awesome record, and Svart Records out of Finland. I was telling some, actually I might have been in North Carolina when I was talking with Grown Men Record Night guys, but they're sort of like the girl in high school who would, like, you know, get something going on with just about anyone if she were like really hot, though, you know what I mean? So that's like what Svart is, because they'll do just about anything. They'll do black metal, they'll do jazz. It doesn't seem to matter as long as it's Finnish. But their shit's really good, you know what I mean? Like when they put their minds to something, it's fucking on, you know what I mean? So, kind of a shitty analogy maybe, but I'll tell you. I won't quite buy a record just because it's on Svart, but if I'm interested in something and Svart puts it out, I will not hesitate to check it out. So speaking of fusion, this one's almost rock. This is Takashi Inomata and Sound Limited. I might have shown this a while back too, but yeah, this is from the Deep Jazz Reality series. And these are expensive, man. This is like these fucking Japanese imports, but most of the ones I've heard are just so fucking good, man. This Deep Jazz Reality shit that, yeah, I don't even know who's like behind the series. This Project Reeve Vinyl or whatever, but or HMV Record Shop, but well, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is a heavy fucking record, man. I mean, it's almost like a hard rock track, this thing's starting out, you know what I mean? It's, like, this is, I'm only okay calling this record jazz, in fact, because, like, it's Rated X, and a lot of the rest of Get Up With It by Miles Davis. If that's jazz, then this is jazz, too, okay? But as fusion shit goes, man, this is like, you know, it's rocking and it's intense, you know what I mean? It doesn't play games. Great record. This would be a good record even if you're not into jazz. And especially if you're not into fusion. If you like rock and you like jazz but you think fusion is shit like I did for a long time, this one might change your mind. Takashi Inomata, Innocent Cannon is the name of the record. Alright, what else do we have here? Oh, I've come up with some shit to talk about. Oh, okay, here's another fusion one. Alright, so sometimes buying shit based on the cover alone pays off. And here's an example, man. I found this one when... Okay, well, actually, I looked at it, okay? The only person on here I would know is John Abercrombie, okay? Guitar player, right? I wasn't familiar with Mark Cohen. It rings a faint bell, but I don't know why. I'm going to assume I'm thinking of Al Cohen or something. Jeff Williams, didn't know who he was. Or Clint Houston, okay? But electric alto sax is what Mark Cohen is playing. And where did it say this? They're like wah-wah pedals and shit like this, man. Oh yeah, there we go. He plays an alto saxophone modified with an octave divider, 2 wah-wah pedals, a fuzz tone, and a tape echo box. So between that and like the electric instruments, you know, the guitar, great, electric bass, I was like, I've got to hear this. So I took a chance, and it's really good, man. It's heavy. It's it moves a lot. There's sort of a lot of, it's sort of like a big pack of spiders running around or something like that, you know? It's borderline chaotic, but it's not quite chaotic. It actually coheres really well. It's just, there's a lot going on all at once, and it just barely manages to keep itself sort of contained within the center it defines for itself, if that makes any fucking sense at all. So, anyway, though, yeah, it's just called Friends. I guess it's Mark Cohen was the band leader, but, sort of looking this up afterwards, that's what it was, and it's on this, as a private press on this micro label called Oblivion Records. who apparently, I went and looked them up after I bought this, apparently they made a couple like blues records and this thing, and that was about it. You know, it was like a vanity project that some guy had going and didn't make any money off, so he threw in the towel after half a dozen. So yeah, though, very high recommendation. If you come across this thing, I don't think it's super rare or anything, but like I said, I pretty much blind bought it. Great record, though. So, well, that's about 20 minutes. I feel like I should show one more, though, just sort of tie things up or something. I don't know. What else is in here? Yeah, a lot of shit I don't feel like I've really digested yet, so. Alright, speaking of piano trios, since I was talking about that a minute ago, I'll close out with this one. Closing on sort of a more mellow note rather than sort of a high freaking out one. But a few people have talked about some of Denny Zeitlin's, the electronic shit he did a little bit later in the 70s. This one is, there's no date on the back, but I want to say it's late 60s. This is just Denny Zeitlin in a trio setting, okay? So bass and drums and his piano. And it's acoustic piano on this record. Really just a nice record, man. Like, I mean, I don't know, that sounds so safe, though, and like weenie. This is a fun record to listen to, okay? When it's obvious, it's really kind of obvious, but it doesn't stay obvious for long. You know what I mean? It goes in all these different directions, and it's exploratory, it's thoughtful, and it's just a really cool record. So what do I think is metaphysically more important to me, this or his electronic shit? Probably the electronic shit. But this is a really cool record that I kind of just grabbed because I found it cheap. And I'm really looking forward to checking out more of Denny Zeitlin's records as I come across them, because it seems like he has a lot. But his style's cool, and I really respect the way he, you know, spent all that time, I mean, decades experimenting with different types of like electric and electronic instrumentation. So, you know, especially being a shrink in San Francisco, he doesn't like need the scratch. He can just sort of do what he wants. So you hear that. Anyway, that's what I've got for today. Is that it? Yeah, we're gonna call it good. So, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next time.